Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Greg and Owen. This is a final prediction video for one of the big undercard fights taking place this weekend on the undercard of Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury 2. Moses Itauma faces his biggest test by some distance against Demsey McKean, who has a record of 22-1. Gents, it's an interesting one. Obviously, Moses Itauma, big things are expected of him here in the UK. He's looked impressive. He's been on kind of bigger stages as he's progressed. He's up against Marius Wack in his last fight, in a fight that didn't last very long at all. But I'm interested to get your kind of predictions here. Itauma are a heavy favourite. But yeah, just going to break it down a little bit and looking forward to hearing what you guys are expecting to happen here. Greg, the town were a big favorite here, but what's your final prediction?
Tough one, Elliot. There's no outcome in this fight that would surprise me. I'm thinking that we might see Dempsey McKean take it easy early on and have a look, and I hope he does do that because I think that will mean Itauma has to go rounds. At the moment, I'm probably siding towards Itauma points, but I'm not 100% confident because a young kid that's 19 has explosive speed and power. It's very hard to predict.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I think he is still so young. I think the thing about Tanner is he both looks older and then just comes across very mature. So I think a lot of people look at him and think he's maybe 25, 26, but he is still a teenager, which is crazy to say. And he's not only turned pro, he's kind of facing men. He's facing men like 10, 15, 20 years older than him. I think Marius Wack was probably more than double his age. But up against Dempsey McKean, who just the one loss, which was against Philip Hergovich, 22-1. Large, proper heavyweight, very tall man. It will be interesting to see how they match on the scales on Friday night. Owen, what's your prediction here? Obviously, Greg's gone for Itauma points. Um, be interested to see how much of a test this is for Itauma. Obviously, look, a victory isn't guaranteed for anyone in boxing. What do you see happening?
I think it's like Greg said, it almost sounds like the coward's way out to say no outcome would surprise me, but it really wouldn't because it wouldn't surprise me if Dempsey McKean comes in and tries to get him out early to make a statement for himself, or he just comes in to feels him out. And if Moses Itauma, if he gets in there and almost realizes he is special, tries to survive. So I do still think Moses Itauma is going to get to him. Sort of mid round, sort of round six, round seven. I do think McKean's going to take it easy, sort of feeling out process. But honestly, I think the town was just special. He's passed every test so far with flying colours. And I think that's a bit of an understatement. Each time they've gradually stepped him up. So it's a case now of, it's probably how to describe it in a sense of if he knocks him out early, there's a big problem because then it's like, right, how much do we step him up again? Because he's only 19.
Mm.
I don't think Hergovich was amazing that night, but he still went 12. And it was a very late stoppage in the fight. So, Dempsey McKean's obviously got pedigree in terms of the opponents Moses Atama's faced. So I am back in the stoppage. Round six, I'll go with, but this is the sort of tester of a case of I used the example to one of my mates the other day of I know that he hasn't progressed now in terms of fights how we expected, but when Adam Wazim was made European champion, it was a case of, oh dear, now how fast do we have to move him forward? And I think this could be a real case with Moses Itauma. If he goes in and blasts McKean out, I think Frank Warren's got a serious problem on his hands.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. People have spoken before about Moses Itauma breaking Mike Tyson's record and being the youngest heavyweight world champion in history. And if he's going to break that record, then he needs to kind of have a big 12 months. So we'll see. I think this one, I know it's a cliche in boxing, especially with these Riyadh season undercards. I think it's gone slightly under the radar, and I think this is actually a really interesting fight. I'm going to side with you, Owen. I think Atama's going to get the stoppage here against Demsey McKean. I think he really is. I think he really is something special. I'm actually going to go a bit earlier than you. I'm going to go for round four, so we will see what happens. Just one more before we do go, gents. Seeing as we're going for a talent to win. Do you guys think we're going to see him face a genuine top 10 heavyweight in 2025? There have been rumors that they were targeting Joseph Parker. as an opponent for 2020, 2025. Itauma's already ranked highly with the WBO. We know Frank Warren's got quite a good relationship with the WBO, which might have something to do with that. Owen, I'll go back to you. Can you see that? Can you see that happening? I'm not asking kind of who you think he might face, but can you see him fighting a genuine top 10 opponent next year?
Um, Depending on how he does in this fight and who he fights at the start of next year, it could be a case of at the back end of 2025, Frank Warren hasn't got a choice but to put him in for top 10 heavyweight
Yeah.
because it's a case of if he deals with Dempsey McKean with ease, after Hergovich took 12 to get him out, if he goes in and bombs him out in, like we've said, sort of 4 or 5 rounds, and then they put him in with another sort of step up fight in, say, what, March time next year, then they haven't got a choice but to put him in with a minimum a top 15. I think obviously I know I've seen Parker mentioned. I think that's ridiculous at this stage. Parker's potentially going to be fighting for a world title again. But yeah, I think honestly, depending on how he does, I really do think we could see him at least a top 15 and very possibly sort of a 8, 9, 10 ranked fighter sort of at the back end of next year.
Yeah, no, we'll see. Look, he'd be going we'll be going 11-0 if he does beat McKean, but obviously still only 19 years old, which is crazy to say. Greg, what about you? How exciting do you think 2025 is likely to be for Moses Town? Because it could be another year when I don't want to say holds back, but just fights at Dempsey McKean's level, which is obviously fine, or he could actually kind of go for the best opponent possible. It's also kind of got to hold your hands up and say he's probably not an easy person to match against. I don't think there's people lining up to fight Moses Atama. What are your thoughts?
I think I try and think more politically what I think will happen. I think whoever wins out of Fury and Usyk, I think those belts are going to be fragmented. I think they're going to become sparse. So I actually think I can see him fighting somebody maybe towards the back end of the top 10 because with the WBO title he's got, if he beats Dempsey McKean, beats someone else, could get into a final eliminator to be number one contender. So that's definitely going to be somebody in the top 15 anyway. But if it could be, say Joseph Parker loses, just say for example, we'll not go down that road, but would they might throw him in with Joseph Parker if Daniel Dubois does a job on him, then it's certainly possible. So yeah, I think I can, Elliot, just to keep it nice and short. I think I can see him taking someone on towards the back end of the top 10.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. All right, it's got to get past Dempsey McKean first, so we'll see a real intriguing fight on this weekend's undercard. Owen, Greg, good to speak to both of you, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, mate.